huge thanks to everyone who tunes in to Dr. VGP's podcast. We've received the YouTube Silver Play button for reaching 100,000 subscribers and counting. We sincerely thank you for being part of this wonderful journey with us. Click on the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to notify you with all our future podcast contents. Thank you again.
Hello and welcome to Dr. VGP Talk Show. Hello and welcome to Dr. VGP's podcast that reaches 42 million households across the world, including 2 million in the United States of America. Today we have a very unique guest, a successful guest, a champion of innovation. Meet Dr. Raj Ramesh from Virginia, US. Raj, thank you so much for joining us on Dr. VGP's podcast.
The GSA Global Eye magazine honored 20 outstanding achievers from across the United States at an awards ceremony on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., recognizing their work in transforming communities and advancing a broader spirit of empowerment. The ceremony brought together leaders and change makers from across the country in a celebration of service and excellence.
I've never been in the same room with 6 congressmen. It's been quite an honor, and I want to really thank everyone who attended, who made this event a great success.
And we are excited to hear your story from the ravages of the war, from the Kuwait Iraq war in 1990 to 1991 was a turning point in your life. So we'll start with that. Tell us what motivated you.
Thank you, Dr. VGP. Thank you for having me on this show. It brings back memories to the time of 1990. My dad had been working in Kuwait for about 8 years. 1990 was his last year. He had accumulated all his savings in the banks and, brought appliances to take to his native India. And that's when the Iraqi soldiers invaded Kuwait. And we didn't hear from him for 4 months. And CNN was just starting on, and I turned on the TV trying to find out what was going on. But, we didn't hear from him. And later on, 4 months later, he would call me and tell me that he was rescued by American soldiers, made his way to a refugee camp in Jordan. He was living off food thrown from the sky for
Wow, that must have been so anxious moment. Is that moment early in your career that completely changed how you see business transformation? Today, Dr. Raj Ramesh, who's with me today, is the visionary who has helped shaped billion-dollar transformations, advised major federal and enterprise leaders, and translated artificial intelligence into a human-centered wisdom. Well, Raj, that moment, you give us such anxious moments you must have been through in the family. And to see your father who lost all his life savings in Kuwait and Iraq, he was in Jordan and food was thrown. You didn't have contact with him for 4 months. And that was the turning point in Raj Ramesh. Let's wait and hear his story of his early childhood and education being brought up in Chennai, India.
Yes, I grew up in Chennai. I went to Guindy Engineering College, which is 225 years old, the first institution started by the British in India. And I graduated in electronics and communication and came here to study, but my studies was cut short by the war that affected our family. And I immediately became the breadwinner for my family here as well as in India.
Fantastic. You also had your higher secondary school at PS High School, if I'm not mistaken, in Mylapore.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
And I also went to National English School for my grade school.
That's in Triple K?
That's in Gopalapuram.
Gopalapuram. Oh, great. Now, Dr. Raj, you have worn many hats. Mm-hmm. Engineer, architect, storyteller, and an AI strategist. If you had to capture the origin story of your journey in 3 defining moments, what would they be?
The family, my family's, how my family was affected by war was a profound turning point. Mm-hmm. And then I'm a big believer that education is the golden ticket to success. So I want to make support programs that provide education globally to little girls and boys around the globe. And the last thing is, I'm a capitalist at heart. Right from childhood, I wanted to start a business. I wanted to come to America and do that, and that is what I have done.
Fantastic. You just heard Raj Ramesh talk about the 3 turning points. First was his family, his father's journey during the Kuwait-Iraq war, where he found what is the pangs of poverty when food was thrown at him in Jordan, and then his education and his need to, and he wants to be saying education is the focus of all success, as we all very well know. And also today, he's a global educator. He wants to encourage young minds wherever they are globally to achieve what he has achieved and go beyond. Now, recently, Chief, you have been also one of the most complex billion-dollar transformers, architect of the programs. And in your view, there's the real transformation systems or the mindset of the people, which leverages strategy.
I built a government contracting business in cybersecurity, cloud computing, AI, ML, RPA for the last 25 years. And we have received huge $100 million contracts from agencies like IRS, CBP, the San Diego National Labs, Los Alamos National Labs. When I talk about transformation, I always look at incremental transformation. That is the best way. A lot of people ask me, with technology changing so fast, where do we invest? How do we invest? What if things become obsolete? And I always preach incremental transformation as my mantra.
Fantastic. You just heard Raj Ramesh talk about incremental transformation as his mantra. As a capitalist, you describe yourself as that. You also speak of clarity through storytelling. And first time here, you have a capitalist who capitalizes on storytelling to get his ideas through. When did you realize that storytelling is not just technical depth, was going to be your strongest leadership tool?
Yeah, I have listened to many orators, world leaders, and whenever they mention or talk about a story, that sticks in people's minds, and it did very well for me. So I try to, I use storytelling as an example, or that's my approach towards how I articulate, very complex technical subjects. And I also have written a book called 100 Nuggets for Life and Business, where I have employed storytelling as a mechanism of passing on messages to young adults and aspiring entrepreneurs.
How exciting. You got to my next part of our podcast. He is the author of this wonderful book, 100 Nuggets for Life and Business. And the dedication of the book, which I'm reading off from, he starts off the book with saying, "To my roots in Tamil culture and wings it gave me, Yadum Urve Yarum Illai." This powerful line comes from Purnuru, a classical Sangamera Tamil text, 200 BCE to 200 CE, written by poet Kanniyan Pungundram. It expresses a deeply humanistic universal worldview, one of inclusiveness, belonging, and global unity. How profound. Now, your book is full of small but powerful ideas. What made you choose nuggets, the nugget format, where, was there a moment where you thought, yes, this is the right way to share what I have learned?
Yeah, the format for my storytelling is I want to hold the reader's attention, young people's attention, millennials, aspiring entrepreneurs, young adults. So I chose a one-page nugget where the first paragraph is to draw your attention to the topic. The middle paragraph is a lesson that happened, or a story or incident that happened in my life. And the last paragraph is a message packed into that one-page nugget. And you can read it standalone. You can read one, close the book, come back after 1 week and read another. So that's my format.
Fantastic. Will you repeat the format for our viewers? I think this is a must-have book at whatever stage in life you are. If you're a student, you're an educator, a physician, anybody, because I glanced through this book and that's what made we wanted to share Raj Ramesh, his wisdom to all our viewers and beyond. And it's simply amazing. He gives you a real life incident and then he talks about the impact and then what's the takeaway, the lesson to learn.
The lessons learned and the takeaway. That's absolutely right.
Now, for instance, on page 119, it's something which I open the book and something which I can use. Warning signs for a bad partner. He says choosing the right financial partner is one of the most critical decisions you can make in business. And sometimes the warning signs appears early if you are paying attention. Let me go through this because I'm so sure of all of us have business partners. We've experienced this firsthand when we consider selling a small stake in our company to raising operating capital. On the surface, the investors seemed enthusiastic and engaged, and we welcomed his detailed questions during due diligence. But beneath the surface, the tone of the relationship was beginning to shift. Please pay attention. The word and the language is easy to read, easy to understand, and this is simplified for each one of us to use it. I would say this is a Bible, if I may quote, where you can refer anything, anytime. There are 100 different instances. A brilliant piece of academic work.
Thank you.
And then the next is, he continues, Raj Ramesh, in this page of 119, he continues, though he was only to be a minority partner, he proposed an exhaustive list of restrictive covenants that went far beyond his investment. The deal breaker came when he insisted that we seek his permission even to take a vacation. How right? Something no founder or leadership team should have to ask for. That was the moment we knew this wasn't a partnership. It was a control masked as a collaboration. We walked away from the deal without hesitation, and in hindsight, it was one of the best decisions we made for the health and independence of business. Now, he is going to tell us, and he could read verbatim from the book, because I want our readers to know, when you go read a book, it should be simple, easy, and interesting to turn page after page. And that's exactly what Raj Ramesh's 100 Nuggets for Life and Business is. He's going to tell us what the takeaway is. You can read it. It's very well written.
So the takeaway in this particular incident was somebody wanted to invest, but they wanted to exercise control. And it was at the micro level. And that is not a healthy sign of a partnership. That is the takeaway. And if you pay attention to these kinds of red flags, you'll be able to detect it and walk away from it. That is the takeaway from this nugget.
Yeah, it's so beautifully. I would recommend all of you all. Is this book available in Amazon?
Yes.
How will our viewers get a copy of this?
Yes,
book?
this book is available on Amazon as a paperback edition, and in international markets, including India, it's available as an ebook.
Fantastic.
On Amazon. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, behind every nugget out of these 100 nuggets is a story, sometimes very painful, but true, what Raj has experienced. Is there a personal mistake or setback that later became a powerful nugget from these 100 nuggets?
Yes. Earlier on, I had training centers, a couple of training centers to teach emerging e-commerce technologies. And that was going very well because I had corporate clients. But somebody convinced me to import that training on a retail basis to individuals. So what that happened was I was getting paid 1/5 of the amount, but I had to spend 5 times my own time to import the training and help that person get a job. It was very gratifying and rewarding, but it was not a good business model.
Fantastic. So in your eyes, Raj, is there a difference between wisdom for life and wisdom for business? Or do the same principles apply universally?
They go in tandem because some of the things that I write about as life lessons, are all geared towards self-development and, the qualities, the traits that you can build. And if you want to start a business, that becomes the entrepreneur's toolkit, right? I talk about doing Taekwondo with my daughter. Wow. We did it for 4.5 years.
Wow.
Got a black belt. And one thing I learned as a lesson from that was you have to finish what you start. That also applies to businesses because business is
very well
marathon.
said. Very well said. How old is your daughter?
She's 24.
Wow. You have a big grown-up daughter.
Yes.
So you have been, Raj, watching technology evolve for decades.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about the next 5 to 10 years, what excites you the most and what worries you the most?
What excites me most, I know AI is on everybody's hearts and lips, and everybody's watching AI. Society is being transformed by AI, even without us realizing it. And I can see a lot of productivity gains. I can do my job faster. Whenever my tax accountant asks me for information from 100 documents, I just feed it into AI and it summarizes it, and he gets the information in 3 hours instead of 6 months. These are examples, but there's also the fear that AI is going to take away jobs. In my mind, AI is going to create some new kind of jobs. So, there's going to be, folks that want to play in the new economy will have to, reskill, upskill, retool their skill sets. Now, you asked about what worries me most
exactly.
is AI is the kind of technology. I always talk about it as playing with fire, right?
Correct.
Fire, we have tamed fire since time memorial. But if you are not careful, it can burn you. So we need to have governance and guardrails around AI, and that is very important.
Great. I mean, you are giving the downside of AI as well as the foresight what AI is going to transform businesses in a big way. Now, you wrote in your book. Again, I bring back to this book because it's a phenomenal book, guys. It's something new in the market, unique, where it's all based on real life experiences where Raj has gone through. It's not something imaginary. It's not a fiction. And it also gives the impact it created and the takeaway for each one of these 100 nuggets. Now, you wrote AI and you to help people thrive in the AI era, like you just earlier said. How do your nuggets intersect with this message which you just gave? Is there one nugget that becomes even more important in an age driven by AI, which we can refer to in this book?
Yeah, I write about the different waves. We are in a new wave, right? The previous waves have been in outsourcing, in e-commerce, in social media. Then there was social media 2.0. Now it's this new wave of AI. What this means is there are tremendous opportunities that are being created for very creative people. So at the least, I write about this when I talk about the different waves. You can read it in my book. And we are now experiencing a wave of AI, quantum computing, crypto, and space technologies. These are very essential. They are going to be very transformative to humankind.
Now, Raj, take for a minute. You just mentioned something which is like the buzzword which I'm hearing today, quantum computing.
Yes.
How does it relate to AI, robotics, healthcare?
So let me try to quickly explain what quantum computing is all about. What propels or powers AI is the computing power. We used to have CPUs, then now we have GPUs.
Could you expand for our viewers what CPU is and GPU?
Yeah, CPU is central processing unit. GPU is graphical processing.
That's the hardware.
Hardware.
Yes.
That gives the computing power. Now, NVIDIA makes all these GPU chips, but even NVIDIA is investing in the next frontier, which is quantum computing, which is qubits. What is called taming the electrons and using the electrons to increase computing power, a millionfold. So this is where technology is headed, and quantum computers are going to be very important in cyber security because they're going to break every known crypto algorithm out there in about 5 years. So brace yourself for the next generation of supercomputers, which are quantum computers.
Thank you, Raj, for that very insightful brief on quantum computing for all of us lay people who are able to, the term is thrown at us and we're able to understand it. You did it very well for us. Now, some of our viewers would like to hear how you built cyber media technologies. I know you sold it for 100 million or so. So give us, in 1 minute, could you recap how you started it, how and what you ended up doing with cyber media technologies?
Yes. We started at the bottom of the food chain, meaning we were a subcontractor to large businesses. But when we got an opportunity to move up the food chain, win prime contracts, we did it. In the field of government contracting, there is a very important thing called past performance. If you have $1 million contract, they're not going to give you a $10 million or $100 million contract. You got to prove yourself with, you can maybe win a $2 million contract. So, by showcasing our past performance, I noticed that, some of the big contracts were using, three important aspects that we did separately, cybersecurity, cloud computing, human capital management. And I saw if I combined all three as my secret sauce, I could compete with the big boys. And that is what I did. And I became very successful at that.
Very well said. Now, tell us about your new venture, the company, and what you're doing there.
Yeah. My new venture is digitalnet.ai. What digitalnet.ai does is formed by the acquisition of three companies, one for application development, one for cybersecurity, one for data analytics, and a fourth platform company for agentic. It's an agentic AI platform. What this means is if you have any work, it can be split up into multiple AI agents, and it can be orchestrated together with what is called a human in the loop, because that is very important.
Human in the loop. Very interesting.
Yes, we talked about guardrails and governance. The human in the loop is preventing AI from just going haywire, just taking over.
Absolutely.
So that is what this company is about. And we launched, at the beginning of October, and that is my latest venture.
October of 2025 or 2020?
2025.
Fantastic.
It's a brand new venture.
So Raj Ramesh's digital.ai is his brand new venture, just launched a month ago. Now, your work reminds us that technology may accelerate the world, what you just said, but it's the human wisdom that steers it.
Yes.
Like you used a phrase,
yes. Human in the loop.
Human in the loop. I love it.
So a lot of people ask me why, what is going to happen? Where should I focus? AI is going to be very intelligent because it's a lot of people's wisdoms that you can go and mine and incorporate. But if somebody has subject matter expertise, that is going to be key. That is the human in the loop that can manage and control these AI platforms.
Fantastic. We heard all of you. Phenomenal success, Raj. Before we come to the rapid fire section, can you talk about a failure or a near failure in your life that ended up teaching you one of the most important lessons?
Yeah, it's around money management, right?
Money management. Okay.
Almost bankruptcy in the early stages of my business. And one of the things, I write about this in my book, borrowing money from friends, family, or even venture capitalists.
Very interesting. Please proceed.
Is not a bad thing, but that comes with a price. As long as you know what the price they are demanding for that. Like for example, friends. If you take money from friends, they could think of themselves as partners and start giving you advice. If you take money from family, they'll be calling you every day asking you what's going on. If you take money from venture capitalists, which is not a bad thing at all. I'm in total support of that, but you need to know what the expectations are and how to run your business around.
That's a very valuable piece of advice Raj Ramesh just gave us about money management and how he grappled with it when he was near bankruptcy, but he overcame it. And I think, again, going back with, this book is really a true treasure for everyone. You don't have to be a business entrepreneur. You can be a student. You can be a senior. You can be a broadcaster. You could be a physician. You could be an educator. You could be a politician. You can be a congressman, a state senator. This is worth life's lessons learned. I mean, it could serve you in every which way. I encourage all our viewers to go back and get your hands on it, at least an e-copy, as fast as possible. Raj, with everything you juggle, writing, consulting, speaking, how do you personally stay grounded and focused? Any habits or routine that truly work for you?
Yes. I mean, maintaining my sanity is very important in this hectic, you mentioned all the things. And I'm not alone, but for me, what has worked is I've been a Bikram yoga practitioner, heart yoga, for about 15 years.
Wow.
And I feel that has kept me grounded.
So give us, in a 30-second spiel, what is Bikram yoga? We have heard about it, but we never understood. How does it differ from the traditional yoga?
Yes. So it was started by Bikram Chowdhury, and it became popular, where they heat up the yoga studio to about 105 degrees.
Wow.
Some instructors
Very interesting. Something
heat it
I
up
learned
to
today.
115, and then it's a 90-minute yoga session. The first 30 minutes is breathing. The second 30 minutes is all flexibility, and the last 30 minutes of the 90 minutes is the 26 asanas. So it's a package. 90 minutes. You need to be well hydrated, but I think that keeps me sane.
Fantastic. And how often do you do that?
Twice a week.
Twice a week. And
I'd
you
like
find
to do
time.
it more whenever I find time.
And how expensive or affordable is it for some of our viewers? I would like to try it too.
Yeah, I pay $99 a month.
That's all
for unlimited number of sessions.
And you have to go into a Bikram yoga.
Yes, I go.
Fantastic. There's something new I learned. It's a new nugget you're sharing with us. And now coming to the rapid fire section, I'll just give you a word and you can give me one principle from you or the nugget that comes to mind.
Sure.
Again, we get back to this book because here we want, when I glanced through and read it, it's something phenomenal. I mean, Raj's life is just beginning. He might have said that he has completed or realized his American dream, but I think the best is yet to come from this young gentleman, a product of College of Engineering Guindy. I'm from Chennai, so I can share a lot of his insights, but I see that he has still got fire in his belly and there's a lot more conquest to do. And, today we see these young entrepreneurs, but so focused. He made a successful cyber media technologies, and now with this digital.ai, with this book. Have you written any other books, or this is the first book?
This is my first book.
Okay, fantastic. So what does the nugget that comes to you, what is legacy? You can do one sentence flashes.
Family.
Okay. What is AI mean to you? I mean, I'm just giving you a word, throwing it to you, and you can just answer the word back.
Technology that can be a good platform for good.
Risk.
Risk needs to be managed.
Family.
Family has to be cherished and nurtured.
Money.
Money has to be managed properly.
Wow, fantastic. Failure.
Failure is a stepping stone for success.
Success.
Success brings more success. Don't stop with what you have achieved. Aspire for more.
Wow, well, he did very well. I mean, I'll give you an A plus for the rapid fire round, Raj. You are a man. We have to look out for you. Now, Raj, if you're given an opportunity to take 3 people out for dinner from the past or the present, they could be your mentors, your heroes, those who aligned with you. Who would those 3 people be and why?
I would say Nelson Mandela for what he went through. Second person would be Steve Jobs.
Okay.
And the third person would be President Trump.
Fantastic. Calling about President Trump, I mean, you brought me to my next question, which I'm glad. So you heard Raj Ramesh talk about 3 of his heroes, Nelson Mandela, which you all know, the South African story, the champion there. And you know about Steve Jobs. Nobody needs an introduction for Steve Jobs. I think you'll be our next Steve Jobs in this century. And third is our dynamic President Trump. Raj, tell me, we hear so many reports coming in with President Trump's second term. And there's so much dynamics going on in America and the globe.
Yes.
I would like you, as one of the most successful entrepreneurs who has been in Miami and in Virginia, have offices. You have so much success. You have some challenges. You were also, when the Republican President George Bush was there, you talked about the Kuwait Iraq war, which has affected and transformed you, your turning point. Now, what is your take on the current President Donald Trump's administration?
I think being a capitalist at heart and pro-business, this president is not only pragmatic, charismatic, and a role model. He's doing everything he can to bring investment globally from everywhere into our great country.
Fantastic. You just heard Raj Ramesh describe President Donald Trump, the 47th President of the United States, as pragmatic, charismatic, and the last one,
as a role model.
As a role model for himself and all business entrepreneurs as a capitalist. I mean, you said it so well. Your Nuggets book again, as we're closing up, and thank Raj for joining us on the Dr. VGP podcast, distills decades of experience into timeless lessons. So, and also your AI vision brings clarity to the complex, beautifully simple. And your storytelling, in this book is simply phenomenal. And on behalf of our viewers and our global community, we thank you for sharing your journey, your insights, and your brilliance with us today, and wishing you tons of success as you not only conquer America and, of course, your home birthplace, India, but the globe. Thank you so much, Raj, for joining us on this. It was a dynamic interview for the last 27 minutes. And now in closing, give us your message. You can repeat your mantra, whatever you want, to our global viewers, because this is one and only Raj Ramesh. Thank him for joining us, guys. And this book, The 100 Nuggets for Life and Business, is something every one of you must access. And we'd love to hear your feedback. And we'll now give the closing comments and remarks from the one and only Raj Ramesh.
Thank you, Dr. VGP, for having me on the show. It's been an honor and pleasure. My message to anybody, young adults, aspiring entrepreneurs, business people, is, the world is at your feet. If you aspire, you can achieve whatever you want, but you will have to build not only your talent and work towards your God-given potential, but also, think of it as yourselves as a platform. You have so much to offer. So everything and I write about this in my book, everything you do in your life never goes to waste. If you know how to put it all together and build your platform, your self, your own platform for success, you will do wonders and you will be able to achieve your God-given potential.
You just heard Raj Ramesh giving his closing remarks, but let me tell you, after this very phenomenal interview in this podcast, we are going to take the Global Eye Magazine and Global Strategic Alliance, going to take Raj and his book to several metropolitan cities across America, to Dubai, Middle East, and Asia. And look more for the space to see what's up next with Raj Ramesh.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thanks so much.
Dear viewers, elevate your business to new heights and reach 35 million potential customers with Global Eye Digital. Contact us today at globaleyedigital@gmail.com or info@globaleyedigital.com. Let's take your business global.
Get your brand connected to 2 million readers in USA and 38 million readers in India. Global Eye Magazine, the fastest global American weekly. Our magazine dives deep into exclusive stories, face-to-face interviews, and key happenings across the USA and India, delivering content you won't find anywhere else. Advertise with Global Eye Magazine and reach highly targeted and influential audience. Contact us to book your ad space.